Imagine working for an agency that provides international aid but fails to aid its own employees. That's the story of Tamara Torres. She's endured over 5 years of a legal battle with USAID. You're very brave. You're very brave. It takes a lot for someone to come out of the shadows, if you will, and to speak truth. To me, it doesn't seem as if it would be that big of a deal because that's what we're supposed to do as human beings is to tell the
Right.
truth. But a lot of people don't see it that way. Why did you feel it necessary to not just speak truth to power, but to speak it in such a public way?
I guess it's because of the humiliation. So in the beginning, I didn't want to say anything because talking about domestic violence is so, it makes people feel so uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
it makes me feel uncomfortable. But then when USA destroyed my credit, I felt like, well, that's also very embarrassing. So if you're going to be embarrassed regardless, then you might as well say it because it's not right and it shouldn't be allowed to continue. And we don't know how many people have the same problem.
What actually happened? One, let's talk about the name of the company. What's the company and what do they do?
United States Agency for International Development. I worked in the Bureau of Conflict Prevention and Stabilization and the Center for Violence Prevention. I thought if anybody is going to listen to the need to have a protective order enforced, it would be these people. Um, but people just said, it makes me so uncomfortable. Why do you keep getting subpoenaed? Why do you keep going to court? Like, I'm not going to court to have a good time. I'm going to court because my life sucks. I'm going to court because somebody tried to murder me. Going to court because somebody's stalking me. It's not great. I don't like it. I don't want it to continue. And also, my ex-husband, he would break into my coworker's home. So it's like, at what point is this guy going to be in your house? And then what are you going to do? Like, a lot of things make me uncomfortable, but I have to deal with them. And I feel like my security and the security of my coworkers also should be dealt with.
You first went to your supervisor and you told them what? How did the conversation even begin to say, "Hey, this is what's happening in my life and I need help for myself, obviously, and I'm looking for, a protective order, but I'm also letting you know because this could affect the other employees here." What did that conversation sound like?
So when I first got hired at USAID, I even brought it up in the onboarding. I was like, hey, to fully disclose, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I have a civil and a criminal protective order that say my husband has to stay away from my place of employment. And what's the process here? Because the previous agency that I worked with, they said, oh, you have a protective order? Give it to us. Do you have a picture of this guy? Give it to us. We'll put it by the door. We won't let him in here. And I was like, okay, cool. It's probably that simple. But at USAID, it was a lot of like, well, I don't know. I don't know who you should talk to. Maybe you should talk to security. Have you emailed security? Have you called security? And I would email and call security, but they wouldn't answer me. Right before I got kicked out of USAID for the second time, I met with the director of security, John Voorhees, and he said that at the time I was emailing and calling, they weren't reviewing the emails and they weren't answering the phone calls. So I don't understand why there's a reporting mechanism set up if it's not being manned. I mean, how hard would it have been to say, put an out of office response to the email? This isn't being monitored. For
Right.
help, do this. Or the same thing with the phone. Hey, no one is checking these messages. This is what we think you should do. Like, it's not asking for a huge paradigm shift. It's asking for just treating humans like humans. The
Yeah.
whole thing's supposed to be about humanitarianism and helping others. So why can you not help the people that work here?
I think that's what's really ironic is the fact that they espouse the values of humanitarianism, helping other people, lifting people up, and yet someone within their own organization, their own employee, is seeking that same kind of protection, and you simply weren't finding it. What was that like for you emotionally, knowing that I'm assuming you were just kind of on this roller coaster trying to get them to listen, to help? What was that like for you emotionally as a human being, as a woman who is crying out for help, doing the right thing, notifying them, but basically having doors slammed in your face, not responding to your emails?
it made me feel really subhuman. Like the whole process of the domestic violence was awful. Having to go to court, having my husband at the time, my ex-husband, he had an attorney. I never had an attorney, and just always being like, "Oh, it's you." And they would talk about my in my marriage. We talked a lot about immigration, and they would look at me like I'm the immigrant, but I'm the U.S. born citizen. He got he got residency by marrying me, and a week after he got residency is when he attacked me. So the whole thing was a very invalidating experience. Um, when this happened, I was at a different agency, and my supervisor there said, you really should leave the federal government. You got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get out of here, because my husband was breaking in my coworkers' houses. He would just call the different numbers and let me tell you some shit about Tamara. And it was like, this is awful. This is embarrassing. USAID finally said, hey, Tamara, come here for this job. And I was like, cool, this is a restart. And just like this other agency took my protective order seriously, these people will too. But they just didn't. And working at USAID was awful. Like the people that I worked with specifically were awful. I would ask people frequently, like, oh, how long have you been here? Most people have been there like 1 or 2 years. If somebody said, oh, I've been here 5 years or more, then it was like, okay, you have to watch this person because they've adapted to live in this toxic environment, right? Like this person doesn't breathe through their nose anymore. Now they grew gills to survive in this toxicity. They have evolved. And because they've evolved in this way, they don't see you as human. So, I mean, it was awful. I did try to talk to a lot of supervisors about it. Mostly I just got the runaround. I tried to talk security about it. Security, they didn't care about it. It makes them uncomfortable. And I get that domestic violence makes people uncomfortable, but it's a reality of life. I even reached out to the union. I was a dues paying union member, but they also felt uncomfortable with it. So after fighting with them for over 2 years to get the protective orders recognized, and after having other issues at work, specifically, I was denied a career ladder promotion, even though I had time and grade and appropriate performance. I said, you know what? Let me just get out of here. These people are never going to see you as a human. And my personal life sucked because of the domestic violence. My work life sucked because of the way these people treated me. So I thought, all right, I'll take a $10,000 pay cut and move 2,000 miles away to make it better. But then once I came to New Mexico from DC, I was hit with a bill for the student loan repayment program.
Because you thought that was going to be paid because you were working for the federal government?
Right. I've been working with the federal government for 10 years now. And I received $6,000 in student loan relief. I was supposed to stay there 36 months. I was there a total of 33 months. After the 33 months, I was like, you know what? I'm having such a hard time. Like, okay, I get up. I got to go to work. Where is this guy? Where is this guy? And then I would talk to homeless people like, hey, have you seen this guy? Oh, he's that way. Great. I'll go this other way. I'd have to schedule like, what time am I going to come into the office? What door am I going to use? Switch up my schedule all the time. Sometimes my husband would find me on the way in. He would start chasing me in the streets. I'd start running down the streets. Then I get into the office and now I have to deal with these people. And same thing on the way out of work. Like, what door am I going to go out of? If I left at 3:00 today, I can't leave at 3:00 the next day because this guy's probably sitting out there. Because with domestic violence, I don't think people know this, but 35% of domestic violence happens at the workplace because your ex-partner often knows you're going to be there and they know your schedule. So it's a very good time for them to get you, especially when they don't care about personal safety.
Yeah.
So I left after the 33 months. I said, you know what, like these people are never going to promote you. You're going to keep having to fight with your ex-husband. And it's so exhausting to have to just like keep going like this,
Yeah.
Even though I was in the address confidentiality program, that didn't mean that I could get the light bill in my name. Because if I turned the electricity on in my house, this guy's going to be in my house. Like every moment of every day was so stressful. I developed acute post-traumatic stress disorder. I have a disability based on that. Um, it's called the Schedule A disability. But
Mhm.
USA didn't want to recognize this, and it's like, like, okay, you're just gonna have to get out of here. I guess you're just gonna have to get out of here. And I thought, well, I'm leaving one government agency, going to another government agency. They gave me paperwork that said you don't owe any money. So I said, okay, that's even better.
Right.
If they would have said you owe us the 3 months, here's the money. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I get here to New Mexico and they say, well, we need $16,000. We need the $6,000, and you also owe $10,000 in late fees, penalties, and interest. So I tried to fight them about this through their process and the process that they outlined to me. It didn't get me anywhere. Now it's been 4 years. I just came back from working on this wildfire, so I made a little extra money, and I'm trying to settle the debt with them now. I hope that they accept it and it can just be over.
It really is adding insult to injury. It really is. It's adding insult to injury. You have now been embroiled in also a lawsuit against USAID as well. What made you decide to finally file a lawsuit? Because many people, it is a very terrifying conundrum. You know, technically, we have that right to do so. We have the right to sue our employer. And yet, so many of us don't because it is a terrifying proposition financially as well as emotionally. What made you finally say, "You know what? I'm fighting for justice," and that's what justice is for me?
I had to do the same thing with my ex husband. Um, I would go and fight against his attorneys. He had attorneys that were like $450 an hour. And then I just have to go to the law library and read some books. Okay, how do I
Wow.
file a subpoena? How do I submit evidence to a court? What is the laws? Sometimes we'd have to go to court in Virginia. Sometimes we'd go to court in DC. Sometimes we'd go to court in Maryland. What are the different laws in the different states?
Wow.
So I was already kind of like used to going to court and feeling like
Mhm.
shit. So it was like, okay, I can go to court and feel like shit with these other people. And
Mhm.
I did. Uh, it was awful. And the most recent one, USAID got the Department of Justice to defend them. I still didn't have legal representation. I lost. Um, I'm not an attorney. I have a master's degree, but I didn't study law.
Mhm.
I just try to do the best that I can. When I was looking for attorneys, a lot of them said, it'll be $30,000 monthly retainer. It's a
Oh my
$6,000 issue. So why am I gonna pay $30,000 to resolve a $6,000 issue? Like, that doesn't make any
God.
financial sense to me. So I thought, well, I'll just try to do it on my own, and it did not work.
Mm.
But the future is unknown. Things can change. Um, I wrote to the White House and I told them about this problem. I had written when the previous administration was in. I did not
Mhm.
get a response. This new administration has responded, but so far I haven't seen any action. And I'm hopeful that somebody can help me resolve this issue. I also
Yeah.
think that they screwed me in an administrative process. They
Mhm.
shouldn't have the right to take me to a court to screw me through a judicial process. Like,
Mhm.
that's not fair to the common person. The common person isn't an attorney.
That is one of the major issues for many people who are trying to sue their employer for whatever the reason may be, and the reality of it is financially difficult, financially challenging, and yet we're going up against these big companies trying to seek justice, and it's hard. It's almost as if the system is rigged against us, and these companies know it. I think that's the part that just really infuriates me is that they know what they're doing. Like, they clearly know what the outcome is going to be because the system is set up for them to win automatically. What do
Absolutely.
you think needs to happen so that we can change this around because it's just not fair. It's not fair for the common man like you and me, common woman, if you will, to be able to go up against a major company.
Oh, I don't know. It's so hard to say. It seems like under capitalism, whoever has the most money is going to have the most power, is going to win any fight.
Mm,
Um, in hindsight, I don't know. If I had to do it again, I'd do it again.
yeah.
USA, yeah, yeah. They see me, see my face, hear my name,
Mm,
and know that I'm
mm,
coming for you. I'm coming for you in every avenue that I can. coming for you over and over again.
More of her legal battle in part 2.